So I know I already did a ranking of all the MCU films on my channel before. However, I decided to make another one because in my last video, I made that video almost right after Infinity War was released, and so Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, and Avengers Endgame are not on that list, so I decided to make a whole new video including those three films. And also, my order of the films has slightly changed since the last time I made that list. I rewatched a few of the MCU films, and a couple of them went down on the list a little. Not that I really liked them a whole lot less, but I'll get it more into this later. But films like Black Panther and Civil War, even though I still love them, watching them again, I didn't love them as much. I still love them, but I did notice more issues here and there, but I'll get into that later. So, yeah, I decided to make a whole new ranking video of all the MCU films I've seen, and in this video, I'm also going to talk about not just my thoughts on each film, but also I'll mention how many times I've seen the film and my favorites and my least favorite part of each film. So, yeah, let's get right into it. The Incredible Hulk is a film that I've seen twice in my life, and both times I've seen this movie, I've had a feeling of indifference. I really don't care for this movie. It's definitely not the worst movie I've ever seen. The filmmaking is, while boring, it is competent. However, it is the worst film in the MCU for me because, like I said before, it is just really boring, and I really don't like Edward Norton as the Hulk. I think he's even more boring than Bana, and Eric Bana, was a terrible Hulk. My least favorite part of this movie is definitely the fact that, once again, it's boring. And what's sad is that my favorite part of this movie isn't even part of the actual movie. It's the post-credit scene with William Hurt and Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark appearing, asking about the Hulk. That's my favorite part of the movie. So yeah, it's not a terrible movie, but it's nothing really great either, and it is, once again, my least favorite film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Just like with The Incredible Hulk, Thor the Dark World is another MCU film that I've only seen twice, and is another film that I give the same score to, 4 out of 10, and is also another film that I consider really boring and basically pointless. There really isn't anything in this film that sets up anything major in the MCU overall. I mean, yeah, the Thor Ragnarok that does kind of follow up with the events of Thor: The Dark World a little bit. However, in Ragnarok, they basically just cancel out the events of Thor: The Dark World. I really don't see a point to this movie other than, just to make another cash grab sequel and to fill time up until Age of Ultron. So yeah, Thor: The Dark World is just really boring, and also the side characters like Darcy and Dr. Eric Selvig and Jane are just really bland and unfunny. And my favorite part of this movie has to be the Stan Lee cameo. In fact, the Stan Lee cameo in this movie is probably top 5 Stan Lee cameos. In fact, at the end of this review or this video, I'm actually going to be ranking all the Stan Lee cameos from the MCU films as well. Iron Man 2 has both good and bad. It's really a mixed bag for me. The bad is that Scarlett Johansson, Mickey Rourke, Sam Rockwell, all these talented actors aren't really used properly. Don Cheadle, his character, well, to be fair to Don Cheadle, his character was already kind of boring and never really got interesting in the MCU. Even in Endgame, his character was kind of boring. So yeah, all these talented actors are basically wasted in this movie. Sam Rockwell is kind of fun to watch, but at the same time, not really. Obviously, the best part of this movie is Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. is incredible in all of the MCU movies that he's been, and in general is just a great actor. And the least favorite part for me for this movie is Whiplash. Whiplash is just a really generic, boring villain. They try to shoehorn in this past that his dad basically unintentionally suffered at the hands of, or maybe intentionally suffered at the hands of Howard Stark, Tony's dad. So yeah, I don't know. Also, it does get really convoluted towards the end. So yeah, Iron Man 2. There is good in this film, but overall just eh. Ant-Man and the Wasp, I had a feeling, just like with the Incredible Hulk, I had a feeling of indifference both times I watched this film. This film is a lot of fun. It does have many funny moments. However, the ending, which is my least favorite part of this movie, is just so generic, too happy, and too rushed. Basically, the ending of this movie, spoiler alert if you haven't seen this movie, is that Scott Lang, Hope, and Hank are able to bring Janet back from the quantum realm, and then she just heals Ghost. She puts her hands on Ghost's forehead and heals her. That's a really lazy way to wrap up this story. So yeah, I really did not like the ending, and for me, the ending is the most important part of a movie. Even if a movie doesn't start out that well, if the movie doesn't have a great beginning, if it has a great ending, then I will have an overall positive experience, because usually I remember the ending of a movie more than the beginning of a movie. So yeah, the ending is my least favorite part, and my favorite part has got to be the jokes, particularly this one specific joke where Michael Pena sees the giant ant Antonio with the ankle bracelet, with the police ankle bracelet thing, whatever. So yeah, that moment was really funny. So yeah, but Ant-Man and the Wasp, it's a fun movie, but also it's just bland and a disappointing follow-up to Infinity War. The first Thor movie is actually kind of decent story-wise. However, where it suffers for me is in the bland setting, the unfunny and boring side characters, and all the Dutch angles. I mean, seriously, Kenneth Branagh, what were you thinking with the Dutch angles? The best part of this movie for me is Loki. I mean, Loki in general is just such a fun and great and complex character. I really like Loki a lot. And Chris Hemsworth he's doing a pretty decent job as Thor in this movie. He is better. He does improve as an actor as the films go on. However, in his first film, he is still I can tell he is definitely trying, and I do commend him for that. My least favorite part of this movie has got to be the bland setting and the Dutch angles, a tie between those two. And my favorite part of this movie is Loki. Captain America the First Avenger starts out kind of strong, but then towards the middle it gets a little dull. However, the ending of this movie is fantastic, with Captain America waking up 70 years later in the present, and then Nick Fury asks him, "Are you okay?" And then Steve is like, "Yeah, I had a date." That is just an amazing moment right there. In fact, I think it's a tie between the ending and the grenade scene, which is my favorite part of this movie. And my least favorite part of this movie is, unfortunately, the directing. Despite the fact that this movie actually does have a decent script and nice morals, the directing, how the flow of the film, it's just not good at all. There are these clashing tones, and I do kind of put most of the blame on the director, because I can tell rewatching this movie for a third time, the script is actually pretty good at some points. So yeah, the directing, I really feel kind of bad for putting so much blame on the director for this, because I don't think he's a horrible director, but I just don't think in this particular film it was up to par, especially when compared to the other two fantastic Captain America movies. Oh boy, here we go. arguably the most controversial film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Captain Marvel. Now, the first time I saw this movie, I thought it was I gave it a 6 out of 10. If you guys watched my review, you'll remember that. However, seeing it a second time, I did like it a bit more. I did have a little bit more fun, and I was able to lower my expectations because the first time I saw this movie, I did have relatively high expectations, considering that Nick Fury was going to be in this movie and there's going to be an origin story to this new character, and I really like Brie Larson. So yeah, I was more disappointed the first time than the second time. Watching it a second time, I did have more fun considering that I knew what was going to happen and that my expectations weren't so high. It's still not a great movie, but I did have fun a second time, and I was able to overlook some of the major flaws in this film. The first 30 minutes are just really dull, and my favorite part of this movie has to be Nick Fury. Samuel L. Jackson really does a good job in this film and overall in the MCU. So, yeah, Captain Marvel, it's fine. Age of Ultron could have been so much better. It is a fine movie on its own, however, there are also many dumb things in it, such as Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen's terrible Russian accents. Their characters aren't even that interesting to begin with. The introduction of Vision is kind of poorly executed. The romance between Hulk and Natasha, which is arguably the most criticized aspect of this film, I do like the concept, however, I just felt like it wasn't executed as well as it could have. My favorite part of this movie, Iron Man versus Hulk. Iron Man with the Hulkbuster armor facing off against Hulk, that's my favorite part of this movie for sure. And Ultron, he's not a terrible villain, but he's not great either. I think this film is good overall, but it does have many flaws. I actually think that Iron Man 3 is a great movie, and I would watch it again if it weren't for that incredibly stupid plot twist towards the end, and just the entire third act in general is awful. It feels like a completely different movie, to be honest. That twist with Ben Kingsley being an actor, and the whole final battle just felt underwhelming, and Gwyneth Paltrow on fire, and Guy Pearce being like, I am the Mandarin. Just everything about the third act I hated. I straight up hated everything about the third act of this movie. However, the first two acts of this movie are really good, and that's why I gotta give this movie a positive score overall. Just like with the other two Iron Man movies, my favorite part of this movie is Iron Man, Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr., he's great. And you guys already know my least favorite part of this movie, the entire third act. But if I had to point to one specific aspect or scene, it would have to be the plot twist where Ben Kingsley was revealed to be an actor. That is definitely my least favorite part of this movie. But the first two-thirds of this movie are really good and actually really well directed and written, so I gotta give the movie a positive score overall for that. If it weren't for the amazing special effects, the good character work, and the good acting, then Doctor Strange would have been just another generic, boring movie. In fact, that's my least favorite part of this movie, is that the plot is very generic, and we've seen this kind of story before. It's very similar to both Ant-Man and the first Iron Man in terms of a redemption arc. However, it is good because of both Benedict Cumberbatch and Tilda Swinton's performances, and the effects are amazing in this film. My least favorite part of this film is unfortunately Mads Mikkelsen. Not his performance, he's doing a fine job, but his character is really boring. And my favorite part of this movie is the effects. The effects in this movie are amazing. And overall, while this film isn't really the most original or exciting or risk taking film in the MCU, it is still pretty decent, and I had a lot of fun watching this movie. I actually really like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It's not flawless, it's not amazing, but I think it's pretty great actually. I've seen a lot of people online and in person who really don't like this movie, and I guess I could see why. There are some annoying parts, some jokes that don't work, but I personally really like it, and there are just so many things in this movie that I really like. The effects, Drax, Star Lord, Kurt Russell, Gamora. There are just a lot of things that I really like in this movie, and I will acknowledge once again, there are some awkward moments, some annoying moments, jokes that don't work, like Taserface. I didn't la- I even watching this the first time, I didn't even laugh once at the Taserface joke. However, I still really like this movie and had a lot of fun with it. My favorite part of this movie has got to be Drax. Drax is just so funny in this film. And yeah, his character is not as fleshed out as he was in the first movie, and his character development is sacrificed to make him basically be a punchline. But the things that he says are really funny, so and I think that James Gunn knew that when writing this movie. He gave Drax the funniest lines because Drax definitely has the least character development. And my least favorite part of this movie has got to be, I don't know, Mantis, I guess. I mean, I don't hate Mantis, but she's not exactly the most exciting character, and no fault at all against the actress. In fact, Palm, whatever her last name is, starts with a K, actually is doing a pretty solid job. So, yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I kind of understand why a lot of people don't like it, but I personally really like it a lot. Ant-Man is a flawed, familiar, and predictable movie, but it's also a ton of fun. I've seen this movie 3 times now, and each time that I've seen it, I have laughed my butt off at the same jokes. It does have its dumb moments, it is predictable, the filmmaking could be better. In fact, I think that that's my least favorite part of this movie, is that both the cinematography and editing is kind of bland, and the villain is very bland. But I gotta say that I still had a lot of fun with this movie, and my favorite part has got to be Michael Pena. Michael Pena is so funny in this movie, and he's funny, not as funny in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but he's still pretty funny. And Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly are all doing a great job as well. So yeah, first Ant-Man movie, a lot of fun. I will admit, watching Spider-Man: Homecoming for the first time, as so far throughout the movie, I liked it, but I wasn't too impressed. Up until, spoiler alert, the twist with Michael Douglas, the Vulture, being Liz's dad. I thought that that was a really great twist that added a lot of depth to both Peter Parker, Liz, and the Vulture. I really liked that twist a lot, and the rest of the movie is fun as well. It doesn't do anything really that different besides the twist. However, I still had a lot of fun with this movie. I gotta say that my least favorite part has got to be surprisingly the Stan Lee cameo. It's just kind of drawn out and not really funny at all. And my favorite part of this movie is the twist. And Tom Holland's Tobey Maguire used to be my favorite Spider-Man, and even after watching this movie and Infinity War, Tobey Maguire was my favorite Spider-Man. But upon rewatching this, I gotta say that Tom Holland is my new favorite Spider-Man. The first time that I saw Black Panther, I loved it, and I mean loved. However, watching it the second and third time, I did like it a little less. However, I still really enjoy this movie, as you probably could tell by the 9 out of 10 rating that I gave this film. There are some issues with it, like Forrest Whitaker's questionable accent, and it does get a bit predictable at points. However, I just really appreciate the writing in this film, the character work, how complex and interesting Killmonger is, and intimidating at times, like really intimidating. And Michael B. Jordan and pretty much the entire cast does a fantastic job. This and Endgame is probably some of the best acting in the MCU in general. So yeah, I still really like Black Panther. I do like it a bit less than the first time that I saw it, and that is unfortunately due to the fact that again there are some predictable parts, and the visual effects at times are really bad. However, it is still a pretty good, decently directed, well written movie that I still would give a 9 out of 10 to. Just like with Black Panther, the more times I have seen Guardians of the Galaxy, the first movie, the less I've liked it. However, I still really like this movie, and each time that I've seen it, I've still had a lot of fun, even if in subsequent viewings I enjoyed it a bit less. However, when I say that I enjoy this movie less, it doesn't mean that I now dislike it or hate it. As you guys could probably tell by the 9 out of 10 rating, I still really like this movie a lot, and the jokes are really good. The characters are really interesting. My favorite part of this movie is definitely Groot. Groot, even though all he says is "I am Groot" and "We are Groot," Groot is still a really cool, fun character. And speaking of characters, my least favorite part of this movie is Ronan. Ronan is just a generic evil bad guy. And yeah, just Ronan's not a great character at all. But the other characters are really great, really fun, and this movie is just a lot of fun. The first Avengers movie is just like with Guardians of the Galaxy 1, and Black Panther is another MCU movie where the more I have watched it, the less I liked it. I still really like it. However, the first time I saw this movie, which was in theaters in summer May 2012, I would have given it a perfect score, 10 out of 10. But after watching it fourth, fifth time, I do like it less. However, I still really like this movie. It is a lot of fun. My favorite part of this movie is definitely the iconic shot of the camera spinning around all the Avengers and them getting ready to fight the Chitauri and Loki. And my least favorite part has got to be that towards the middle of this film is a little slow. It really takes its time. I do think that this movie could have been a bit shorter. However, it is still fun overall, a good movie with well crafted action and interesting characters and a lot of funny jokes. And overall, I still really like it, even though I like it less than the first time I saw it. Thor Ragnarok is one of the best films that I have seen ever. I love this movie. A lot of people complain about the overuse of jokes in this movie, but personally, that doesn't really bother me. The only thing that bothers me is that Hela is unfortunately a generic evil bad guy, want to take over the world villain, and that's really disappointing considering that the extremely talented Oscar-winning actress Kate Blanchett is playing this character. Now, I don't think that this character does injustice to her as bad as her as the really ridiculous character that she had to play in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. However, I don't think that her playing Hela really did her any favors either. It might have introduced her to people who, casual movie viewers who don't know who she is. And I do think that she's doing a fine job, both in terms of the stunts department and the acting department. But she's definitely my least favorite part of this movie. Not her performance, just the character Hela. But my favorite part of this movie is gotta be a tie between Thor, who is a lot more interesting in this movie than the previous MCU movies prior to this one, Valkyrie, and Korg. All three of those characters are great. And oh wait, no, four-way tie, Jeff Goldblum. Actually, besides Hela, pretty much all the characters in this movie are really, really fun to watch, and many of them really complex. And I love this movie so much. I used to think that Captain America Civil War was a perfect movie. However, I did rewatch it recently in preparation for Endgame, and I gotta say that rewatching it, the stuff with Wanda and Vision was pretty dull. The first time I saw it, it didn't really bother me that much, but watching it again, the Wanda and Vision stuff was a little hard to get through. And that would be my least favorite part of this movie if Hawkeye was given better characterization. However, how Hawkeye is used in this movie is my least favorite part of this film because the characterization that he was given in Age of Ultron was actually pretty good, and I applaud Joss Whedon for really trying to make Hawkeye a better, more complex character. However, I felt like the Russos kind of ignored the characterization, or they didn't really know what to do next with Hawkeye, so they just put him randomly in the movie, and they didn't even use him in Infinity War at all. So yeah, so how Hawkeye was used was definitely my least favorite part, and my favorite part in this movie has got to be the airport battle. That battle is just so much fun, and it's just really cool. This movie overall is really good. It's one of the better films in the MCU for sure. And even though it's not as good as I when the first time I saw it, it's still really really good. Prior to this movie coming out, so many people were anticipating this movie. Not as the anticipation for this movie wasn't as much as Endgame, but it was pretty close. This movie just this is one of two MCU movies where the I actually like it better upon rewatching it. I really really like this movie a lot, and just the character work that was done, with the exception of Captain America, and that's actually my least favorite part of this movie is that Captain America is barely used and doesn't really have a point in this movie at all, and that really disappointed me. However, just the character work done with Thor and Iron Man and Gamora is all really, really good. And Thanos is a great villain. Killmonger used to be my favorite villain. Well, and before him Loki, but after some thinking, I gotta say that Thanos is my favorite MCU villain. He's the only villain in the MCU who actually succeeded against the Avengers. He eliminated half of the universe population in the universe, and he sat down, was able to relax, and stared at the sunset of a, well, in his mind, grateful universe. I really like this movie. It's one of the better movies in the MCU, one of the better directed movies as well. And yeah, I could be here for hours talking about how great this movie is, but for time's sake, I'm gonna stop now. Now, I have only seen this movie once in theaters. I do want to see it again. I'm not sure though whether I'll be seeing it in theaters or when it comes out on DVD or streaming. And however, even though I've seen this movie once, I feel like upon rewatching this movie, I will like it just as much as if not more. Usually with these MCU movies, especially with Black Panther and the first Avengers movie, I will watch it the first time I'll watch it, and then I'll either really like it or not. And then upon rewatching it, I'll start to like it less and less. However, with Infinity War and later on the Captain America: The Winter Soldier, the more and more I see it, the more and more I like it. And I have a feeling that with Endgame, that'll be the same case. Because watching Endgame for the first time in the theaters, I did notice all the flaws I have with this movie the first time seeing it, and looking back, I can't really think of any other flaws I have with this movie. And unfortunately, there are quite a few flaws with Endgame. However, those flaws don't ruin the movie. I don't let them ruin the movie for me, and it definitely didn't ruin the experience. The experience of seeing this movie and all the crazy stuff that happens in this movie, all the crazy, fun, emotional stuff was exhilarating. Everybody in the theater, I'm pretty sure everybody loved it. I loved it. It's one of my favorite films in the MCU for sure. And if they never made, like I said in my review of Endgame, if they never made another movie in the MCU after this, I would be satisfied. Captain America: The Winter Soldier is one of two, besides Infinity War, one of two movies in the MCU where the more I watch it, the more I like it. The first time I saw this movie, I actually didn't really like it that much. I thought it was fine up until that amazing twist with Bucky. I remember the first time I saw this. I didn't see it in theaters. I actually, for the first time I saw this was in this auditorium in the student center at this college I went to. And when the mask fell off the Winter Soldier and we saw Bucky's face, I was the only one that was like, "Oh my gosh, that's Bucky! Oh my gosh, whoa!" And my mind was blown. After seeing Captain America: The First Avenger, I was thinking, yeah, we're never gonna see that guy again. But then seeing him as the Winter Soldier in the Winter Soldier movie, oh my gosh, like my mind was blown. And from then on, the movie just got better. And watching it a second and third time, I did appreciate the stuff prior to that twist a lot more. Actually, yeah, don't yell at me for this, but the first time I saw this movie, I didn't like the elevator fight at all. I actually thought it looked messy, and rewatching it a second, third time, and fourth, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. The elevator fight is awesome. Yeah, just I really like this movie a lot. It's one of the only perfect, in my opinion, perfect movies in the MCU. The very first movie in the MCU, the one that started it all, is my favorite film in the MCU. The very first Iron Man movie, directed by Jon Favreau. This movie is incredible. I love this movie. I have no issues with this movie at all, no subjective or objective flaws. If I really had to nitpick, I would say that the editing could have been a bit better at parts, but really, I don't care. Just, I love this movie. This movie is amazing to me. I really, really like this movie. This is the movie that introduced me to the MC and a lot, and obviously everyone to the MCU, especially with that great twist. Not twist, sorry, post-credit scene where Nick Fury appeared in Tony's basement and he said, "I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative." I love Robert Downey Jr. in all these movies. In this movie, Jeff Bridges, even though his character isn't the best, he's doing a good job. Terrence Howard is the only, I guess Terrence Howard, he doesn't really bother me that much, but his performance is not very good. But that's basically the only thing that I would consider really wrong with this movie. Even though I do have a flaw with this movie, Terrence Howard's performance, I still consider it to be a perfect movie because Terrence Howard's performance does not ruin the movie or put it down at all. This is a 10 out of 10 movie for me. This is a perfect movie, even though I do have an issue with it, and it is my favorite movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.